and welcome back to Well, That's Interesting. The wow, that took a lot of math to figure out, glad I didn't have to do it edition. Today is episode 290. Sperm whales sleep vertically, and they toot bubbles to do it. And looks like cave art has organizational grammar. My friends, the last time we spoke about our large-lobed cetacean amigos, known as sperm whales, was exactly 1 year ago this week, during episode 203. In it, we met researchers from the MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory and Project SETI, who used a language learning program to decode 9,000 recordings of clicks and pops from 60 of these whales, all to discover, y'all, they have their own phonetic alphabet. Indeed, that was the title of the episode, and if you haven't had a listen, I would suggest canceling whatever plans you made later because they're not as exciting as learning about the prospect of finally deciphering what whales could be saying to one another. Turns out, sperm whales have a large repertoire of clicks to choose from, and if you string that alphabet together, you produce codas. Think of these like the words of a sentence. If you think that's wild, it gets wilder and even closer to home, because similar to human language and speech, sperm whales add detail to their codas, and they do this with rhythm or by adjusting the tempo. See, I am telling you, cancel those plans because I know you want to anyway, and this is a great excuse. That study was a phenomenal breakthrough. And in the first half of the show, yet another phenomenal breakthrough about these whales and great news. It involves releasing gas. If you are not aware, let it be my honor to inform you that sperm whales are the only known cetaceans to sleep vertically. Which means, if you were, say, snorkeling off the coast of the Caribbean island nation of Dominica, where the previous study was held, or off the shores of the equally beautiful archipelago of Lofoten, where this study took place, you may wander into a sleeping pod of adult females, their calves, and young juveniles. This scene would not only feel miraculous, but otherworldly. 10 to 20 beasts with lengths of up to 40 feet seemingly suspended with their heads pointing towards the surface and their tails towards the ocean floor. How these creatures can hold their positions has eluded nosy marine biologists for far too long, and I'm even more thrilled to let you know. New research from the University of St. Andrews and the Université du Neuchâtel may have solved this mystery. We will dive into the theories as to why in the holy hell they sleep standing up to begin with, the number of ways they can get themselves into such a position, and we will learn why in the holy hell sperm whales are called sperm whales to begin with, because it's important for this particular study. We will travel to the Arctic Circle, off the gargantuan cliffs of the Lofoten Islands, to meet with researchers who suction cup doodads to a number of roaming males, and we will look and listen to the results, which, I hate to break it to you, come out of their blowholes and not what you were originally thinking. Still, these bubbles and their numbers will leave you amazed. Then after the break, the last time we spoke about cave art was just a month ago during episode 287. And girl, it was exciting. Researchers have successfully recovered ancient mitochondrial and nuclear human DNA from both pigmented and unpigmented cave wall surfaces, which is a fancy way of saying scientists have found a way to find out who exactly made cave paintings. Again, if you haven't had a listen, cancel those damn plans and prepare to throw all your caveman stereotypes out the window. Hint, hint. Today, cave art is back in the news, and girl, it's still exciting. Quote, rock art was not random or made by chance, but was highly organized, end quote, says study author Iñaki Insaturbe from the University of the Basque Country to IFL Science. My friends, after analyzing more than 500 artworks from 9 caves in the Basque Country, Iñaki had discovered something remarkable. A consistent pattern in their layout, hinting at a syntax used by painters, and it was passed down over thousands of years. We will visit these painted sites, gawk at the beauty of these ancient scribbled horses, bison, and ibex. We will run through the meticulous analysis of these drawings, including each of the figure's orientation in a scene, and we will stand back and see that, yeah, just like with the sperm whale's seemingly jumbled clicks, these visual jumbles actually may say something. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my talented business goose. To begin, I'm going to need you to make eye contact with the people around you. Or, if you're alone, to simply look at the space surrounding you and to tell whatever it is before you to suck it, because we are about to embark on a journey to a magical place unlike any other. And I can personally confirm the word magical because I spent my birthday here back in the summer of 2023. Today, we are heading to a part of the Arctic Circle belonging to Norway, an enchanting place called the Lofoten Islands. And I can see your face from here. The look says, Jill, the fucking Arctic? Not only does this sound cold, but how long does it take to get there? And how far up is this place? Well, I am so glad you brought that up, my fellow geographically challenged Americans, because actually, all you'll be needing is a light jacket and to imagine Germany. Thank you. Above Germany, like a tiny triangular hat, is Denmark. A quick hop over the Black Sea, and we've just landed in Norway, a thin but lengthy country some 1,100 miles long, forming the shape of a jagged backwards comma. Our flight has just landed in Oslo, located at the very southeast, at the very bottom, so we will once again have to board a plane to take us 500 miles north. Now, once we land, an hour and a half later, we will be 50 miles above the Arctic Circle boundary. And if you think we arrived in a white, barren place, think again. The coastal city of Bodø is a vibrant regional transportation hub. She is a poppin', and she is a poppin' because she's located on a narrow peninsula facing the open Norwegian Sea. It's here we will kick back, take out a book you've been putting off reading, or simply replay something embarrassing that happened years ago, because we will be boarding a massive ferry whose concession area has far too many sausage options. It was uncomfortable when I saw it the first time, and I just had to bring it up. Anyway, the ferry will take about 3.5 to 4 hours, making a beeline, an additional 77 nautical miles up towards a smattering of islands that collectively look like a claw digging into these fresh, pristine waters. Now, I don't know what the fuck you have in your hands right now, but whatever it is, please drop it, because you need to see photos of our destination, Lofoten. You know the drill. Pick up your phone to tap on today's post and inhale the sights. I'll give you a second. My friends, I could have provided 1,000 photos. They all couldn't do this place justice. Every mountain towers above you, and their sharp vertical cliffs dropping directly into the sea add more to the drama. The highest mountain in Lofoten is Høygraven. I think I nailed that, at 3,800 feet, while others, a close second, shelter inlets and curved roads whose turns leave you suddenly face to face with these giants. The rocks of Lofoten are among the oldest on Earth, dating back between 2 to 3 billion years. And over the last 2.5 million years, glaciers and massive ice sheets cut into them like the slowest birthday cake celebration. All of this, by the way, is only the beginning. In the winter, 24 hours of darkness are interrupted by the northern lights that you can watch from those tiny red cabins you see in the pictures. They're called Rorbu. As for the name Lofoten, how it came to be is anyone's guess. According to the New York Times, the first element Loa translates to lynx, and the last element derived from Norse is fotar, or foot. This may have been an attempt to describe the shape of the islands, comparing them with that of a lynx's foot. I even called it a claw myself, but etymologists aren't down with this explanation. It could be simpler than that. All you have to do is look up. According to its wiki, the name could derive from the word for light in reference to the presence of aurora borealis, as the word for light itself is the root of the Old Norse word for lynx, loa. Now that's cool, but if you want the shock of your life, take off your pants and walk off the white sand beaches into the water. I will tell you that the temperature is memorable, and so are the gray seals, orcas, harbor porpoises, which are just small whales, and otters, who are locals here. Now, if you're daring and wish to travel farther out, say between 69 to 70.5 degrees northern latitude and 13 to 18 eastern latitude, you may just come across some sleepy male sperm whales. Just like Professor Patrick Miller from the Sea Mammal Research Unit at the University of St. Andrews, who personally traveled here from Scotland to answer a curious question about a very curious behavior. What the fuck is going on with sperm whales sleeping vertically, and how do they do it? Well, before we get into he and his team's paper, revealingly titled Buoyancy Regulation Through Modulation of Onboard Gas Volume by Resting Sperm Whales, we need to talk about why this is their preferred napping position and the assortment of ways they choose from to contort their enormous bodies into said position. The why is twofold. One, being a floating candlestick is thought to help shield them from surface wave action while resting. And two, staying close to the surface is a rather ingenious way to conserve the energy it would take to swim to or from a staggering depth. Honestly, as a creature that depends on the atmosphere above for air, why not be as close as possible? Now, after years of marine biologists playing it cool, trying not to be the weirdo blatantly filming someone's private life, it seems as though there are 3 methods the whales use to park themselves. Some actually just sink tail first, without any diving at all. Others prefer what's been dubbed the head-down, head-up maneuver, where a whale dives head down first, all the way to an average depth of about 90 feet, and then slowly rotates until they're pointing back up, upon which they control their ascension. And finally, the third option, where some just drift straight up from a deep hunting dive without any active swimming. And to control all of this diving and floating, 1 to possibly 2 organs just so happen to be involved. An adult sperm whale's lungs can at any given point hold up to 1,500 gallons of air. Those are some big balloons. And as such, the more air in these balloons, the more their bodies will rise to the surface. So the intake and release of oxygen needs to be perfectly timed to obtain depth and ascent. However, the lungs only make up about 3% of a whale's gigantic internal body cavity. There might be something else at play here. And this is when we get to the part where we learn how sperm whales got their name. My friends, formal scientific descriptions of these whales by European naturalists began in the early 17th century, and boy howdy, they sure did try. Or maybe they didn't really try at all. Here's what I mean. Please picture the side profile of their enormous heads. Not the European naturalists, I mean the whales. Perfect, thank you. Now, using X-ray vision, and with your imaginary pen, draw a rectangle above the upper jaw, filling that huge quantity of space. Perfect. Okay, once more, draw a diagonal line slicing through this rectangle from under the blowhole to the opposite corner. Amazing. Now, let's talk about that bottom half of the rectangle. A swath of tissue lovingly called the melon. I know, I love that. You love that. It makes people smile. And it helps in communication and echolocation by focusing and modulating the animal's vocalizations. And that line that we drew, well, that's actually a hollow tube that's connected to the blowhole, allowing air to travel between the lower part of the rectangle, the melon, and the upper part. Now, I don't think anyone is ready for this, so I'm just going to say it. In the early 1600s, scientists such as Carolus Clusius in 1605 dissected this part of the creature, and upon its opening, A white, oily, milky fluid ran out, and take one's guess as to what they thought it was. Go ahead. Yeah, you're right. They named the substance spermaceti, Latin for whale sperm. And no, it's not that. It has never been that. But this has led to what we still call to this day, for roughly 400 years, the spermaceti organ of the sperm whale. So yes, a deeply embarrassing 17th century guess is what stuck for a name. That is awful, but not as awful as what was discovered by 1712, that this air quotes sperm can be used as lamp oil, make candles, and can be used as a lubricant for machines. A single adult sperm whale can hold up to 500 US gallons, and entrepreneurs salivated at the prospects. Look, the following numbers are horrific, so I'm just going to say them as well. It's believed at least 1 million sperm whales have been killed in commercial whaling, and a ban in the United States didn't go into effect until 1971, though you could still import it until 1972. Commercial worldwide use of whale oil largely stopped in 1986, after the International Whaling Commission declared a ban. I am older than this ban, y'all. Elder millennials unite. Anyway, I think these whales deserve a number of apologies for a number of reasons. So let's make it up to them by understanding them. It's possible this spermaceti organ and its oil are also used for communication and echolocation, but it is oil after all, which means it's lighter than water and most of the whale itself. Quote, because the oils are lighter or less dense than other parts of the body, this causes sperm whales to passively rotate to the iconic head-up posture that we see in photographs and observe using animal-attached tags, end quote, said Professor Patrick to Tom Leslie of IFL. So yes, my drowsy business goose, that is a fancy way of saying sperm whales be naturally buoyant as fuck. So, now that we know how they rise and get into position, how do they maintain it? How do they hang in place for stretches that, on average, run over an hour and can last more than 3 hours at a time? Luckily for us, this isn't Professor Patrick's first sperm rodeo. Years earlier, it was our professor who had the first... Sorry, I am so sorry. Years earlier, it was our professor who was the first to formally document sperm whales resting in this bizarre vertical pose. And he noticed something else strange on his recordings. While resting, the whales kept releasing bubbles, specifically from their blowholes. For 8 summers, right here near the... I'm still thinking about it. For 8 summers, right here near the Lofoten Islands, between 2005 and 2019, Professor Patrick and his fellow researchers tagged 42 free-range male sperm whales using devices called D-tags, which recorded sound and 3-dimensional movement. Using a pole from a small tugboat, each D-tag was simply suction cupped to the side of a whale. Once the tag's suction gave out, it popped off, floating to the surface, waiting to be fished out of the sea. And wouldn't you know it, all that data had yet to be fished out itself. If there's a possible connection between those bubbles and how whales maintain their vertical position, it's going to be on these D-tags. Let's get into it. Enter lead researcher Naomi Freymond, who at the time of the study was a master's student and is today a PhD candidate at the Université de Neuchâtel. This nerdy duo teamed up to take a swing at the numbers and the gas, and boy howdy, we are going to be so glad that they did. Of the 42 tagged individuals, 17 were recorded resting, with the head-down, head-up style the most preferred choice, showing up in 60% of the whales that rested. Individual resting dives lasted anywhere between 6 to 31 minutes, and in 91.8% of all recorded resting periods, that's 56 out of 61 total resting periods, the whales released bubbles. That's almost 92% of the time. And, quote, the duration of bubble releases had an average of 7.8 seconds, while the number of release events per dive ranged from 0 to 36, end quote, from the study. So yeah, someone let it go 36 times during a single nap. I don't know about you, but I'm impressed. Not only am I impressed, but I also feel a little seen, my equally gassy friends. It is my honor to play one of these audio recordings for you, and if it doesn't sound familiar, you're a liar. Here we go. Yes, I played it twice, and I could see your face from here, and I could tell that, yes, you agree with the team. Those are some watery bubbles. And behind that smile, I could see another thought going through that beautiful small head of yours. You're thinking, Jill, I didn't expect to hear whales releasing gas today, and that was great, thank you. But does this really have any effect on a whale's position? Well, I am so glad you asked. To actually prove those bubbles were doing something and not just ambient whale toots, the team built a physics simulation, feeding in each whale's estimated tissue density, drag, and how much air it was likely carrying. These fucking nerds. They then compared that simulation against the whale's real recorded depth over time. When they ran the model, assuming the whale held onto a fixed amount of air the whole time, the simulated whale basically rocketed to the surface, way faster than what actually happened. When they let the model's air volume shrink over the course of the dive, matching what the bubble releases suggested, the simulation was identical to the real whale's positioning. In sum, quote, this study confirms that sperm whales exquisitely control their buoyancy by releasing gases to remain submerged with near-neutral buoyancy just below the surface. It is particularly fascinating they are able to make these fine-scale adjustments while they are thought to be asleep, a challenge totally alien to terrestrial mammals like us humans, end quote, said Professor Patrick in the team's July 2026 press release. So, can we give this team, and most importantly, these whales, a round of applause? Absolutely masterful on both accounts. Like these multi-ton behemoths gracefully slipping into Never Never Land, the team had to be patient and mathematically precise, taking into account an enormous amount of information over 8 years. As Naomi Freeman told Margarita Bassi of Popular Science, the sheer scale of the TAG dataset was the whole reason this was even possible. Quote, we are lucky to have access to such a large dataset with many TAG deployments, because the main challenge is that a deployment must last long enough to capture resting behavior, end quote. This is a very elegant way of saying getting a wild sperm whale to nap on camera for years on end off the coast of an Arctic island is exactly as difficult as it sounds. Now, 2 things the study did not touch upon and leaves room for future examination. 1, other than buoyancy, does the release of blowhole gas help regulate the amount of carbon dioxide that builds up while holding their breath? And 2, do sperm whales sleep unihemispherically, or resting with only one half of the brain at a time like our smart-ass dolphin friends? Or are they more like us, shutting down both lobes? Quote, ideally, we would love to see a technological breakthrough that enables us to measure their brainwave activity, as that would be the best way to tell if a sperm whale is sleeping unihemispherically or bihemispherically. Observing the eyes of a sperm whale during these dives could be another approach, as we'd expect one eye to remain open if they're sleeping unihemispherically, end quote, the professor creepily explained to IFL Science. Y'all, I am so glad we don't sleep that way. No thank you. After the break, we are leaving the steep cliffs of the Arctic for cave walls in the Basque Country. Turns out, the ancient images of animals in cave art may not just be a random scene in the day in the life of an early human. there may be messages hidden inside. Stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by PayPal. You had plans for the last days of summer. And back-to-school shopping has its own plans. School supplies, dorm essentials, your list doesn't stop. Neither does the spending. But when you pay in full with PayPal, you can pay over time. No interest, no fees. Check out with PayPal and get back to summer. Subject to approval. Learn more at paypal.com/payinfor. PayPal Inc. NMLS 910457.
This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. For 125 years, Nordstrom has been part of your story. The stylist who found the perfect outfit for your big interview. The first pair of walking shoes for your 1-year-old. The tomato soup you shared with your sister at the cafe. These are the moments that make Nordstrom, Nordstrom. Big or small, we're here for all of it. Celebrating 125 years with new moments still ahead. Discover it all in Nordstrom stores and at Nordstrom.com.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, I'm going to ask you to drop whatever hot beverage, sharp object, or steering wheel is in your hand to avoid all the screams and to pick up your phone. Please, if you would, tap on today's post on the socials and swipe past all the majesty of Lofoten and the diagram of a sperm whale's head. What you're going to land on is a photo of one panel of cave art in the Basque region of Spain. In the study we're about to peep on in a moment, the authors define a panel as a compositional unit, where a wall contains a set of figures that seem to form a scene. So the question is, what themes appear in this particular panel? Go ahead. I'll give you a second. Okay, I can see your expression from here, and I believe you're thinking, Jill, come on. You're taking this way too seriously. The left side of this panel has a herd of horses, and the right side, some bison. And the bison are hanging with a single horse. It looks like a chill day on the prairie to me. Well, my observant business goose, if this were a single panel alone in a cave, you'd probably be right. But what if I told you there's another magical place on Earth that has the highest known concentration of cave art worldwide with at least 150 sites? And within those sites are hundreds of panels depicting everything from animals to anthropomorphic figures to human figures, and dots and dashes and lines. And they repeat over and over. You just might find yourself with your hands on your hips saying, wait a minute, is this trying to say something? Now, we may never fully understand what, if anything, these panels could be saying, but you know what we can figure out? Well, if these panels contain messages, or a kind of language, there should be a little something called syntax. A word that today is defined as a set of rules that tells us how to arrange words and phrases to make proper sentences. So, what if instead of words you have a horse? What if instead of a letter you have a dot? What I mean to say is that study author Iñaki Insayurbe from the University of the Basque Country had their hands on their hips and said, I'm going to nerd the fuck out and find out if there is a set of underlying structural principles here. To get started, Iñaki did what any one of us would do. Go to that magical place containing 150 sites, a place called the Bay of Biscay. And for my fellow geographically challenged Americans who are like, Bay of who, what now? Don't worry, I've got you. Imagine Spain. Thank you. Point to the northeast corner, which is a coastline along the Atlantic. Perfect. Now move that finger to the right. Wonderful. You just tickled the coastline of France. From that corner of Spain all the way up the western coastline of France is the Bay of Biscay. Dotting Spain's coastline are 9 caves belonging to the Basque Country, and as such, I will not attempt to say their names. I will butcher them. I have a map over at the socials identifying each of them. Have fun trying to say any of those. So, here we are, 9 caves, whose panels contain 500 graphic motifs dating back to the Magdalenian period, some 18,500 to 14,000 years ago. In these motifs, you'll find bison and horses, of course, but ibex, deer, reindeer, fish, birds, dots, paired lines, sinuous lines, rectangles, arrows, V-shapes, and crosses. It's a bit overwhelming. But thanks to algorithms and large language models, we can actually use this AI for good and figure out if there's a method to this madness. One quick clickety-clack calculation revealed that of the 500 images, 68% were animal or anthropomorphic figures, signaling that repetition was indeed present. But we can get even more specific than that. Please, sit the fuck down and prepare yourself for an analysis of a lifetime. Remember when we spoke about panels? That being a wall with figures that seemed to form a scene, like a herd of horses standing around together, or a bison chilling next to a deer. Well, Iñaki narrowed the possible combinations of a scene to two types of occurrences. Binary co-occurrence, which is a fancy way of saying he counted whether two themes or figures appear on the same panel, regardless of how many times each repeats, and weighted co-occurrence, taking into account the number of times each theme or figure is repeated within the panel, giving more weight to repeated associations. After an enormous number of calculations using what's called the Jacquard index, while also taking into account a figure's orientation, aka if they were facing left or if they were facing right, and their tilt, aka if they were horizontal, vertical, slanted, or inverted. Inverted? Taking all of this into account, what did Iñaki find? Drumroll, please. Thank you in the back. Quote, when observing the complete network, the researchers saw that the figures cluster into two large sets. On one side, what's called pole 1 is formed by the large herbivores, bison, horse, ibex, and figures that cannot be securely identified. These animals are the most connected. They appear repeatedly alongside other motifs and function as the center of the compositions. They are not only the most numerous, they are the main organizers. Their importance remains even when calculations are adjusted to prevent very frequent themes from distorting the results. On the other side, pole 2 brings together abstract signs, like dots, lines, and arrows, and less common animals such as fish, birds, or reindeer. These motifs have fewer strong connections but maintain many weak links. Their role is more secondary. They are not the axis, but they help nuance or complete the compositions dominated by the large herbivores. They are like the completements of a sentence, modulating the meaning without being the main subject. Globally, orientation is not random. There is a statistically significant relationship between the theme and whether it faces left or right. Specifically, bison and ibex tend to face more to the left, while horses tend to face to the right. As for tilt, there are patterns too. Horses appear mostly in a horizontal position and very rarely vertical or slanted. Bison, on the other hand, are more varied. They appear less horizontally and more slanted or vertical. Human and stylized feminine figures tend to be vertical. All this shows that thematic hierarchy is expressed not only in the association between animals, but also how they are placed on the wall. End quote. Holy shit, my creative business goose. This is a lengthy way of saying, girl, this is a kind of grammar. We have reoccurring associations, hierarchies, spatial patterns, all solid evidence that the Magdalenian art along the Bay of Biscay is not random. And if you think that is wild, you may need to lie down for this part. These caves were repeatedly visited and redecorated over a period of around 4,000 years, which means the same compositional structure was used by multiple generations of artists for 4,000 years. Did you just get chills? I will say this again, this type of communication was passed on for 4,000 years. To put that into context, the oldest languages spoken today include Hebrew and Mandarin Chinese, which go back 3,000 years. I am never looking at cave art the same way again. And thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, following, telling your friends about sperm whales and their gas. It's a combination of words you never think you're going to say, but here you are saying it to your friends. And they're like, I didn't expect that. And then tell them about cave art. How it all makes sense. It makes sense. Trust me, it does. And a scribbly thanks to the folks over at Airwaves Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you'll love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.